Hey friends! This will be a video unlike the others that I usually post. It will be a longer real-time thing full of unboxing, art supply testing and also color mixing. So if that sounds like your jam, then I will gladly keep you company for a bit. So I was contacted by a company that owns Strathmore and a few other brands that make art supplies. And I liked the review of the Strathmore watercolor journal that I use, and I posted the review on this channel a while ago. I can link it somewhere for you, maybe to the description of this video. But long story short, this box arrived 2 days ago and I had no idea what they sent, so let's check together. This is the first time that I will send a package this large, and now I feel like a real art tuber. So let's check what's inside. Ooh! So they didn't tell me what they are going to send, they just mentioned samples, but we talked about sketchbooks, so I was expecting some of those. Oh wow. Oh my gosh, this is full of stuff. Visual journal. Should we just get it off the box for now? Let's just get it off the box and then we will check individual items. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Another Strathmore journal. I was actually looking for something similar for landscape sketches. I couldn't find anything like that. I always assumed that these were for just pencils. But this is a 300 GSM paper. Yeah, let's check the details later. The next one, and there are two more. Oh my god. What's in here? This is a set of watercolor Aquafine by Rowney travel set. Ultramarine blue, dark, Quinacridone, Magenta and lemon yellow. These are going to be great for limited palette studies. What is this? Also Rowney. These are pens and the red ones. And these are Maimeri colors. I have no idea what's inside, but I'm assuming tubes. Oh, I hope you don't mind if I put the ugly box aside and then we open these two on a much prettier surface. Yay! So excited! I feel like it's Christmas. Okay, let's open these. Don't wanna like hurt the packaging. What's the protocol when you are doing these unboxing videos? Like, you have to tell me if I'm doing it wrong. Let me know what do you like to see in these videos. I like to watch them as well, but I seriously can't remember how other people do it. Let's check. This looks like a set of primary colors plus some variations from Maimeri. I'm already so excited to try these out. Don't worry, we're gonna swatch these. I love swatching paints. We're gonna swatch these today. I'm not gonna make a painting today in this video. I'm just gonna swatch them. Maybe an exercise or just... I don't know. I really don't know. Let's check the other one. This is also Maimeri. And it says Colori Acquarello Superiori. And I like the sound of that. This particular brand, I don't think it's available in Slovakia. And I've never seen this palette anywhere. Have you? Let me know. This looks fantastic. It's like a metallic box. It's quite heavy actually. Let's check what's inside. That's 100% cotton paper and that's for swatches. If I had no idea about these paints and about this brand, which I don't right now, then I would say these were the student line. These look to me like an artist line. Yeah, let's open this travel set as well. So these look like regular student grade paints for studies and great for traveling. This set is very compact, very light. That's the first impression. And it has a brush. I love how compact it is. It is very slim. It's very light. It's not heavy at all. And plus, the palette looks like it gives me quite a lot of space for mixing. We're gonna swatch all that. Wow, oh my gosh. I'm gonna be squeaking and making sounds. I have to say these journals, all of them, they look amazing. Like the minute you get to hold that in your hand, you know that this is a high quality product. It's just the way they're made. I don't want to touch it much because that's not good for watercolor paper. We got watercolor 400 series art journal in 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches, which is about A5 size. I know this paper well. I have my own watercolor journal that's the same as this one, but mine is twice the size and it's a portrait format. Still, I'm gonna do a lot of like thumbnails for larger paintings in this one. I can't recommend this one enough, especially for studies. This is not a cotton paper, but I love working on it because I use a lot of special effects with salt and alcohol and so on, and blooms, and this paper is just fabulous. Cellulose papers in general, in my experience, they show these effects much better and more, they look more distinctive in that kind of paper than they do on a cotton paper. And that's just because the cotton papers, they smooth everything out. So I usually use that for a different type of technique. I love this one. Thank you very much. This is landscape format. This is mixed media paper, acid-free, 100% cotton, people. That's fantastic. Archival quality. And it's 190 GSM, which means that I probably won't be able to use watercolor in this one, but that's okay. We can use this for gouache or to make some works or thumbnails or studies with pencils or colored pencils, which I really want to do. And then we have these two. This is a hardcover and this is a soft cover, and that one is gray and this one is tan. I love this paper. These are amazing for landscape studies, for painting outside. And I was taking a class by Nathan Folks on schoolism. I have to admit that I've been trying to do all 9 levels of this class for the past 2 years, and I still didn't get to the very end. I'm so gonna finish that class using this paper. I'm also curious about what the soft cover holds outside when you're out and about and want to draw like on the street. What's more convenient, to use the soft cover or the hard cover? I'm gonna let you know because those things are important. I wonder if the soft cover is gonna do that because it's quite like hard to keep it open. And if not, if that doesn't work, then I'm gonna use it in the studio for portrait work. These are just my thoughts. This one is hardcover, 48 pages, 300 GSM toned gray, mixed media paper for wet and dry media. Isn't this a beautiful color? This is a beautiful gray. I'd say it's a warmer type of gray, and you can see slight texture of the paper, not a lot of texture. I know this paper. I've done studies, like landscape studies on this paper already. They're larger size, but it's the same paper from Strathmore. And this actually never crossed my mind that they would make a sketchbook with this paper in it. I didn't even check. And now we know, because that would be so much more convenient to have these studies inside the sketchbook. They're just like wandering in my studio in this very, very loose format. Yeah, those are the studies that I did following along the Nathan Folks class on schoolism. And so my landscape journey continues, I guess. Yeah, I gave up on it twice. It's just because I wanted to do so much more and I always couldn't focus because of other works that had priority. But it's such a fabulous class. We're so lucky that it's even available online, and I highly recommend. And I'm gonna review it for you after I'm done painting at least a couple of pages from this. Next we have a visual journal. Here's another part of cover. So I guess that this one can be like, you can put stickers on top of this. Maybe you can even paint it with like Posca pens or something like that. It's excellent for watercolor and watercolor pencils. And the paper, I can see softer texture on one side and slightly like rougher texture on the other side. It's probably cold pressed paper. Yeah, it's cold pressed. And it looks like it's double-sided, but I will see once I do some tests in it. So I now would like to swatch the paints, and I'm going to use the visual journal for swatching. This is something that I think that we'll be using for studies and stuff like that. Maybe collages. I definitely could do the swatches here so that I will at least get a glimpse of what kind of paper that is. We definitely need water. I'm gonna keep it on my right side because I'm right-handed. Let's start with the Aquafine watercolor. I want to see how it flows, and here I want to see what it looks like when I use the richest pigment. And if it says hue, if your paint says hue, it is not the actual pigment, but it's something that's supposed to look like that pigment. Usually you get that word in a student grade paints. It's just that to make student grade paints, to make them cheaper and more accessible, manufacturers often use pigments that are cheaper, well, and not the real deal. That's quite expensive. But the important thing is what it looks like and whether you can make studies with it. It even looks like it has quite a decent light fastness. These look really lovely. These look vibrant, and I'm gonna see what they look like after they dry. They're both like transparent watercolor, and they should be light fast, but I need to check what this actually means. If it's 3 from 5 or if it's the max light fastness. I'm gonna check the pigment info, but it's not as important as how they behave on paper, whether they will be working out for you if you decide to learn watercolor, because that's what I look at when I'm testing student grade paints. They will always be cheaper, they will always be not as light fast as those high-end watercolors, not as rich in pigmentation, they will not be as shiny and buttery, but they will be cheap and they will be accessible. And if they can work just like the regular watercolors do, if they are transparent enough, if you can use them for basic watercolor techniques, then that's something that I'm looking for. These are just swatches, just the first impressions. Now we get these. Yeah, let me swatch these. This is a beautiful selection. I'm really grateful that they picked these 3 items, these 3 colors, because they will be great. I will be able to do a lot of very colorful pictures just with these 3 colors. Like if I need to paint with just 3 colors, with 3 primaries, and if I can't have the 6, like the split primaries that are more practical, that give me more shades, then I prefer lemon yellow because it's more universal. If you can't have 2 yellows, then lemon yellow works really well. And I'm much more glad to get Quinacridone or something that looks like Magenta than Cad Red, because yeah, again, it's gonna give me more vibrant mixes. And if I want Cad Red or something that looks similar, I'm gonna mix these 2. Actually, I'm gonna do the color mixing for you when I'm doing a study with these 3 colors in a separate video, because this video would get just insanely long, so just bear with me. Now I want to just test out what the paints look like on the paper, just get the first impressions. The paper is nice, Color is nice, vibrant, really vibrant. But we have to watch these colors as they dry. We have to see how they change after they dry. If you want to know your colors, then it's better if you check the process of drying and just get familiar with how they change. This color is granulating, which is just something that you would expect from ultramarine. This paint is smooth and it's very vibrant. And the yellows are such light colors that you can't really see the texture, even if it was granulating. I'm so curious, like I'm one of those people that can't wait. If you mix the Quinacridone paint with a bit of lemon yellow, you should get something similar to red. Let's see. Oh, it's not quite red. It's getting there. So if I would be painting poppies or something like that, that probably wouldn't be the kind of vibrant red like these two. And let's see if this mix will also get me a nice like skin tone, because we'll probably do portrait studies. But it should. I just need to dilute it, maybe make it slightly more yellow. And this is a lovely skin tone, so I don't need anything else. Just quickly mix a blue paint, the ultramarine, with the quinacridone, and let's get this vibrant and lovely purple. Oh my gosh, see, this is exactly why I prefer to have the magenta over cad red if I need to choose only one red, because I love the violets, I love the purples. I need that purple. And also, since the ultramarine is granulating, then the mix of purple, the quinacridone, and ultramarine will also be like a duochrome mix that's slightly granulating. It looks wonderful. 3 paints, like 3 colors, but you can do so much with these. And one more thing, just one more secondary color that I need to check is the green. Yeah, we're gonna get a turquoise or something similar. That's gonna work. Yeah, that works for me. That's all I need. See? These colors are all that. These colors are only secondary colors that we created from these two. They are all very different than these 3. And this would make a lovely painting. This would make a lovely color palette for a painting. See, very, very different. I'm gonna include the color mixing in the video as I'm working on a study using these 3 paints, so don't worry about it. This was just like for me to check. So these are the Daler and Rowney paints. We now have a set of 5 by Maimeri. Yeah. Paint is slightly thicker than the Aquafine. These are also larger tubes. Oh yeah, the consistency is much more buttery. It reminds me of actually artists' grade paints when I compare it to Aquafine. Again, just first impressions. I'm gonna do a gradient, or I'm gonna try to do a gradient. And now the green gold. Since the paints are slightly thicker, then you need to mix up really well with water so that you don't get chunks of paint in your bristles. I love this paint. I'm a big fan of green gold. Now this one is Payne's Gray, another favorite shade. It looks so nice. By the way, so far smooth paints. I don't see granulation. Now, with Ultramarine Deep, some of the gum Arabic got separated from the paint. If you get this problem, you can simply solve it by mixing it up together. Yeah, I have a tiny brush in here. I'm gonna do that with the brush. I'm gonna just mix it up so that I get a lovely consistency back. Again, it's thicker than the Aquafine. It's quite thick, actually. We need to put more water into this. And I see granulation, and it looks really nice. We're gonna create the same mix in a bit because we're getting to the Quinacridone Magenta. We're gonna do the same mix as we did here, and we're gonna see the pigment separation. That's what happens if you mix the heavy pigments that granulate with smooth pigments that don't. Sometimes in these mixes, the pigment splits and it creates the duochrome effect that is highly sought after, I think. You can even see it here in this green mix that we made. Not so much in these two paints because we mixed two smooth colors and the result is also smooth. Now the magenta. This shade is quite dark, it's a dark shade. But let's dilute it with water so that we see. This really is darker than this one. But when you dilute it, you will get a nice color. It's not so saturated, it's slightly darker. And about that mixture. Now I'm gonna grab the Ultramarine and I'm gonna grab the Quinacridone Lake. We're gonna create a mixture and create this lovely blue, deep purple. I'm going to dilute it with water and see if the pigment separates. The mixture, we can just add more magenta into it to get a mix that's slightly more red. But since the red is so dark, this won't be as light as this mixture, even if we dilute it with water. But I actually maybe prefer this. And we already can see that nice split of pigments, but we have to wait for a bit until it shows the duochrome effect fully. Yeah, these paints are so lovely. I'm not gonna do the mixing because this video would go on forever. I'm just gonna make a quick note because I have 2 more palettes to swatch. And we're gonna do that on the other side of this journal. By the way, I like the paper. It's just what I would expect from that type of paper. It doesn't buckle much. This clip helped a lot. And it shows granulation nicely. It shows borders of the watercolor swatches nicely. The colors so far, even after they dry, they stay saturated. First impression is a very high quality paper. You can use it for studies, but I will tell you more after I've done a couple of studies on it. I am not a fan of making reviews after you try something once. I think at least 5 studies would allow me for creating a more thorough review. I hope that you're still awake. I hope that you're still with me. I'm gonna dry this on my radiator and then we still have 2 more palettes to swatch on the other side. And that gives me the opportunity to test out this particular paper, the visual journal. Before you turn on the page from your sketchbook or remove this pin, however, make sure that this is 100% dry. 2 more sets to swatch. Yay! And we'll start with the Daler Rowney travel set. Everything is dry. On this paper, granulations and effects show very well. Colors are vibrant and the paper doesn't even buckle much, but don't forget that. The first impressions are quite high. Let's turn the page. And we are going to swatch these paints on the other side. Yeah, I already said that I really appreciate the mixing space that comes in handy. First things first, let me wet everything. These types of sets, they usually have pans that, yeah, they give an impression of really dry paint. So it's gonna be better if we leave them like this to soak in the water for just a few minutes, 2 or 3. This is really great. The paint looks awesome, buttery. This is something like cadmium yellow, but it looks darker than it does on the paper. On paper, they look both quite cold. Very similar shade. I'm not sure if that's just how I perceive it now. I'm gonna check under the daylight because this is just a studio light that I have in here, but these look similar. This is something like Cad Red. And that paint is very buttery. Really is rich. Looks great. This is another paint like Quinacridone Magenta. It's probably gonna be the same as we did test out already, but this one is a pan color. That one was from the tube. And this looks like cobalt blue. Ultramarine. Yeah. If I could make a choice, then I would definitely choose a yellow that's warmer, that's like more leaning towards orange, and also cobalt blue and ultramarine are very similar, and I would probably go for a more turquoise tone for a basic set. So if I was serious about using this set outside, I would have to switch one of these. I would probably switch the cobalt blue for something that looks more turquoise, or Prussian blue is great just because it's more versatile for mixing color. Let's check this green, because my experience with beginner sets that contain 12 colors usually is like horrible. They usually contain horrible types of green. This one only has one green from what I see, and this is not so horrible. It's very vibrant. If you were to use it to like paint trees or landscapes, you would have to tone it down a bit because it's like insanely saturated. This is ochre. The paint is nice, very buttery. Yeah, sometimes the paints are nice and they appear rich and pigmented, but then you find out that they are opaque, which is not ideal. Your watercolors should be transparent, at least the beginner sets, because a lot of watercolor techniques utilize the transparency of watercolor, and then if you're going to, for example, learn the layering technique, then working with opaque paints will not bring you the results that you were supposed to achieve. And so I would test out these paints one more time later on when I'm doing a dedicated video on dark paper as well, or I'm gonna do a dark stripe, and we'll see how opaque they are exactly. But first impressions is very rich in pigment, which also it's like this one is very opaque. It's quite opaque. I can already see that. Like burnt umber, or it's interesting shade. There is a lot of like earthy tones in this set. This is, I hope that's Payne's gray and not black. It looks like, it doesn't look like black. Let me check. Yes, it's Payne's gray. Good choice. That's burnt sienna light red, raw sienna yellow ochre, and Hooker's green dark, which is a good choice. And that's cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, not quinacridone, but this alizarin crimson looks more like quinacridone magenta than what I'm used to. So it's much more rosy than what I'm accustomed to when using alizarin crimson. And then Cad Red, Gamboge, that's Gamboge, I don't know how you pronounce that, and lemon yellow. It's not a bad color selection. I got quite saturated and vibrant looking colors from the first swatches. I see nice blooms. The ultramarine is granulating, and raw sienna granulates as well, which is great. It's gonna help you out. I love the choice of the dark paint. The Payne's Gray is so versatile. I don't love, but I don't hate the Hacker's Green dark. It might come in handy. It might be useful. Let's try to mix in the turquoise color, because that's something that I would rather miss if we didn't have it in the set. So this is a mix. Yeah, that works. It's working. If you mix it with ultramarine, this is what you're gonna get. This is with more green, and this is with like more blue. That's lovely. Yeah, so Hooker's Green Dark can be utilized. We won't have problem in getting other types of rich greens from this set. I want to try one more time to mix in the turquoise. To mix the turquoise and mix in some Payne's Gray, because I would like to paint with darker shade of turquoise too. So maybe, yeah, maybe some more blue. Still did not get quite where I wanted. Yeah, it's not exactly what I wanted. And I'm gonna try to search for something that looks like indigo. Not quite, but it is possible. Once we use the Payne's Gray to darken the mix, then we get something like this. It is not bad. I would compare this to Cotman's, Winsor & Newton Cotman's, but Cotman's are really transparent, on more transparent side. I am tempted to do a full comparison video. Once I test and play out with these a bit more, I want to know like how the paint performs if you decide to do the layering technique, how it performs if you do effects. Also, with these sets, it is interesting to check if the colors could be swapped for something more versatile, so that you don't have to like purchase additional paints if you only want to get by with this set. And I'm sensing that this set could use some improvements regarding a color selection. It would be more versatile, and therefore it would be much easier to recommend it to beginners if some colors were swapped. Yeah, like if you count the amount of earthy tones and the yellows, that's like 6. Half the palette is just browns and yellows, which isn't bad. Some people use that a lot, but you can mix that like really easily. And I miss the turquoise, and maybe another type of green could be more versatile. And let's mix the traditional alizarin crimson that I'm used to. I'm gonna do the Cad Red with the alizarin crimson, that's how it's called. And we'll check what the mixture looks like. This reminds me more of what I'm used to when somebody says alizarin crimson. It's like much more, yeah, I can't quite get what I wanted. I'm trying to darken it up with Payne's Gray. It's not quite, but it's not bad. So that's the first impression of the Rowney travel set. I'm gonna dry this so that we can continue swatching the last set. So the visual journal is definitely a double-sided journal. We didn't get any leaks. We don't see anything that would be like transferring to the other side. I don't even see like difference in texture and color. on one or the other side. Let's test out the Maimeri Blu, the Superiori set. Yay! So lovely. Really wonderful to see this type of packaging. I'm gonna put this aside because, yeah, I know this paper very well, but I'm just gonna do the first impression swatches. But now, first things first, we have to unpack this. And I'm gonna have to figure out, yeah, how to get the paints out of there. Sheesh, they're like tiny little treats. Oh my gosh, it sticks. This is sticky. It went off, luckily. These are like super tiny. Yeah, again. This is making me work so hard to swatch these. Like, I think that it's a good idea to stick to something, but maybe it could be the bottom of the pen. I'm gonna keep it like that, and we'll do that all at once later on. Now we have to unstick all the papers from them. Okay, that was a tad annoying, I have to admit, to rub the sticky part off, but other than that, this set is interesting. I have to swatch it to really see what the colors look like, because I don't see yellow anywhere, but in my experience, some of the paints simply looks like ochre when it's inside the pan, and then you swatch it and you find out that it's quite yellow actually. Okay. They are running around the palette, so I'm gonna have to glue them in because that can get annoying as you work. And the first color is Cad Orange. Such a creamy buttery paint. Really lovely and transparent. The other one is Cad Yellow Deep. Oh my gosh. I can already feel that they are such high quality paints. Like, they really feel like my schminky paints. Transparent Yellow. I'm curious about that one because it looks like a green gold. It is something in between the regular lemon yellow and my green gold favorite type of yellow, but it's definitely yellow, yellowish type of paint. Now, raw sienna. This is raw sienna, very transparent. I'm having some trouble to like actually get a lot of pigment on my brush, but that's not a downside because I like to work with transparent paint, especially raw sienna. I need it transparent because usually I mix the skin tones with it, and I don't want opaque paint because then I can't really use the layering technique just like I'm used to. Next one is Cad Red Light, Cadmium Red Light. Gosh, that's vibrant. Really, really vibrant. Beautiful color. Lovely. And the last one is Burnt Sienna. Comes in handy. Yeah, I'm missing something like Quinacridone Magenta here in this set. So that's gonna be hard to replace. Can't mix that from anything. Other than that, this is a beautiful selection. Let's do the bottom line. The bottom of this palette. First one is Green Earth. Insanely transparent. It's like, it feels like the pigment isn't coming off the pan. Some paints are insanely creamy. This one is very transparent. I can still use it, I don't mind it, but maybe it's just that I need to put some more water on it and just wait until the pigment gets activated, but maybe that's the purpose. I see what I think about it once I work with it some more. This is Viridian, also insanely transparent. It's like nothing. It doesn't... Yeah, very transparent. Okay, let me try some other paints and I'm gonna get back to the greens. This is cobalt blue and the difference is just very significant. This paint is very rich in pigmentation. Color, I mean this color is rich in pigmentation and it didn't really take a lot of time to get it off of there. Okay, this is the this is ultramarine blue, but it feels like it's violet or purple kind of blue. It does not look like ultramarine. And it's very transparent. When I compare it to these colors are insanely pigmented while others are rather transparent. Let's check the last two. Raw umber. Yeah, barely getting some pigment on my brush. And Mars black. Black is not my favorite color to have in this type of set. Payne's gray would have been better. And it looks like it granulates, which I could use if that would hold. Let me check if the greens got activated a bit more. No, not really. Okay, so this is it. I'm loving some of these and the set looks so nice. I know how to utilize transparent paints and I'm not the type of artist that would go on about colors not being too vibrant because there is so many great artworks being done with literally this amount of pigment, like very transparent paint. Like you can learn a lot, you can do certain techniques much easier. I don't know if that's the purpose or if that's just the fault of these paints, but if you are an experienced watercolorist, then you know how to work with this type of paint. I mean the rich ones. You know how much water to add to dilute them to achieve that kind of paint. So if these were as pigmented and as rich as, for example, the cobalt blue, nothing would stop me from making the paint more transparent to work with it. But this way, I basically can't do vivid greens. I could, but I would have to avoid these two and just mix it with these vibrant, really beautiful yellows and that type of blue. What also is a very bad first impression is that I'm missing the traditional ultramarine. In particular, ultramarine blue does not have a lot of pigment. It's not too saturated, but it's also like a purple. And the set is missing magenta. Yeah, I can make it work, but I'm not sure if I would recommend this to someone who's just starting out. They don't know how to mix colors yet and they need more like convenience colors without having to point them out towards some other shades that they would need to buy to accompany this set. Okay, but still, this is just my first impression. And I'm going to work with this set some more and make a full-on review later on. From now, what I can say is that the packaging is so lovely. Yeah, but the packaging won't paint your painting, so we need pigments to work. And that warm side was very convincing. This colder side, not so convincing. Okay. And I'm so thankful that I get this opportunity to check these paints, to work with them. It doesn't matter if I think it's the perfect set or not in the end. I love to work with it already. And I'm gonna make a dedicated painting and a dedicated video to every single piece from this package. Thank you so much for sticking to the end of this video with me. I hope it provided some value to you, and if you want to know more about color mixing and basic watercolor techniques, I created a Skillshare class. It's Introduction to Watercolor, and you can take it for free with the link that I provided in the description of this video. If you liked this type of video format, then give it a thumbs up. You can even subscribe and stick around, and I will see you in the next video very soon. Bye!